enough, yeah.
Uncertain.
Oh, with the, oh, you got a new computer, don't you?
Yeah, it's Charles' husband's computer.
And so
We're gonna
you're going to see if the issue is the computer or the Wi-Fi.
It just said your internet connection is unstable.
You probably don't hear this, but our internet connection is unstable. It's a problem, isn't it? We'll do our best. So I end up reading this piece every retreat, but I just think it's, I am a connoisseur of ways of looking at the Four Noble Truths, right? And so when I see something, oh yeah, sure, why? Put it that way. I really, really enjoy it. And I read this each year. Yeah.
Can you explain that that's not a book that people can get?
This is not a book that people can get. It's true. This is just my own personal script. Not my writing, but things that I have copied down over the years. Someone once asked me, why don't you publish it? Because the copyright would be horrendous. So there's no way. Oh yeah, can you write? So that Krishnamurti quote, I don't have the reference, unfortunately. I'll have the reference for this one. I could give you that one. Most of the references I have, but is anyone there?
I think that it's showing that it's not the computer, it's forgetting.
Okay.
Frozen and
Get the router in here or something. So where you get a good connection in the office, probably.
They are willing. They said if we can show that it doesn't work on this computer, then they'll call their tech person in to try to troubleshoot.
Yeah. Okay, because that revealed as being plenitude, silence, and peace. This flavor, which is only fleeting at first, will become more constant and vigorous until that time when it will appear as a reality, which carries us, enfolds us, and is our very substance. So that's one way of describing Nibbana, or Nirodha, or the unconditioned, or the uncreated, these kinds of things. The bliss which is then experienced is entirely different from what we usually call happiness. For at this level of consciousness, one cannot even say, I am happy, since a consciousness which establishes a distinction between a subject and an attribute would be a dual consciousness. We are now speaking of the peace which passeth all understanding. We have mentioned watchfulness and availability. So that's, for me, two really powerful words. Because I read this, 1990, I think. And I came upon it. Oh, I like those words. Do you do that? You see a reading, oh, I'll take that one, thank you. And you write it on your table and so on. And these two, watchful and available, it really makes sense. Preoccupied and thinking, I try to get rid of that. But if I try to get rid of that, I'm not available. So I notice the proliferation of thought. No, watchful, but available. I found those words very helpful. We have mentioned watchfulness and availability. It must be understood that these must be perfect in their quality. The quality and the purity of attention which result are the essential conditions of success. So the quality and purity of attention which result are the essential conditions of success. So I would say that's right effort, right mindfulness, and right samadhi, right focus. That's what it's talking about in a different way. The exercise of this pure attention implies the complete elimination of all elements from the past, thus allowing the authentic purity of the present to be completely grasped. That to me is Akalika Dhamma. Akalika Dhamma is timeless Dhamma. And if I'm caught up in And we are, aren't we? So much of our attention is past and future, rehearsing or replaying. Is that it? What we do? Replay, oh, we shouldn't have done that. And then we're rehearsing back and forth, past and future. So just the word now and the silence after that is very important, very, very important. So the exercise of this pure attention implies the complete elimination of all elements from the past, thus allowing the authentic purity of the present to be completely grasped. We must forget everything and yet wait for nothing. This entails a state of complete receptivity, which seizes and is open to the complete, eternal, and perfect newness of each moment. Difficult, but it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Because if I'm just regurgitating history with all my like any definition or any perception is historical. Like blackboard is a historical perception because that's what I'm conditioned to see. So language and thought is very, very historical, and that was necessary. We need perceptions, but just the authentic present is like without definition. Without definition in that way. This entails a state of complete receptivity which seizes and is open to the complete, eternal, and perfect newness of each moment. Now, the last paragraph, it is also important that the body should be in a state of perfect relaxation, as the slightest attraction or repulsion results in tensions which impede the purity of attention. And that's why I think Yoga Nidra is important. Because Yoga Nidra, or lying meditation, is a posture that doesn't demand much effort. I mean, you have to be there. You have to kind of stay in the present. But even if you snore a bit, and you kind of, the snoring actually wakes you up. And even if you fall, if you stay there, and I think Yoga Nidra is very, very important for developing, because our identity with the body and all of that is very powerful. Having said that, full lotus or these are good postures because they have a lot of energy in them. But maybe because I'm an older chap, Yoga Nidra is more attractive. So it's also important that the body should be in a state of perfect relaxation, as the slightest attraction or repulsion results in tensions which impede the purity of attention. So desirelessness. So that's what I've used that word a lot in my own practice. And if you combine that with the silence after a word, so I'll just say in the sitting, desirelessness. So note the silence after the word, there's the gap after the word, but also encourage an attitude. Or, as you know, I use the word non-resistance. Non-resistance. Silence and then an attitude, and that can be very, very helpful. I think we'll go do some walking because it's very stuffy in here, but before we do that, and then come back and do a sitting. But just to give you one which really blew me away when I came across this, you don't need to leave your room. You sit at your desk and listen. Don't even listen, just wait. Don't even wait. The world will offer itself to you to be unmasked. It has no choice but to roll in ecstasy at your feet. Now, who's that by? That's by Kafka, Mr. Dystopia. I mean, stunning. So where was he at? I really like that. Anyway, let's do the walking first, I think, because we're trying to get some air in here. Have we got all the windows open? Maybe get the fans going while we're away, yeah? And how about a bell in 45 minutes? And then we'll come back, and then we'll do the sitting, all right?
Back here at 3?
Oh, that sounds good, yeah, back here at 3. Sounds good. Okay, please go ahead. So who like, what makes it so hot? They have it on automatic, the heating system on.
She mentioned that one of the boilers they turned on. When
45 minutes then. And I'll offer a bit of instruction from that last Suggestions from that last reading. So, establishing an attitude and sustaining an attitude. That's quite a nice way to look at right effort, right mindfulness, and right focus. So presence, present moment, you could use Lompas tomatoes. It's like this. And then the silence afterwards. And then you notice that the attitude is one of watchful and available. So you're not preoccupied with any object in the stream of consciousness. Watchful, available. So establish that attitude. And notice this isn't the function of desire. You're not trying to get an experience. It's more like you're just establishing a posture or an attitude. Watchful, available. And then the challenge is to sustain that attitude. So if I choose to watch the breath, I like to observe the end of the out breath. So from the stillness, the end of the out breath, relax into the stillness. But it's still an attitude of watchful, available. And then I have the sound of the motor behind me. But that doesn't need to impact watchful, available. So then the attitude is receptive. Not controlling or trying to do something about the objective experience. Just watchful, available. You say those words and you notice the silence after the words. And then try to sustain that attitude. And then just return to that. So it's like just good craftsmanship. And then see what happens. Okay, just simple instruction. And just sit quietly.